What do you guys like the most about Jason Shelley as a quarterback, and what's his best skill set?
Well, he's a lot like Tyler in that he's a dual threat. He's got a very calm demeanor about him. He's, nothing really gets him flustered. He's very cool under pressure. He ran this type of offense very efficiently in high school. Did a great job, put up big numbers, and so this is his element, the spread offense.
Pac-12 Panic Room plus BYU plus USU plus Weber. JP Chunga, Mitch Harper. A little of a downer day here in Salt Lake City, Utah, inside the ESPN 700 studios. Zach Moss, the latest to join the November Utes crowd. He's injured and out for the rest of the season.
Shocking development, JP. Zach Moss, the bell cow back, the do-it-all back, the guy that you thought Utah can still win the Pac-12 South without Tyler Huntley because of Zach Moss. Now he's gone. Such a huge blow to this Utah team that just a few weeks ago looked like everything was in front of them. And now so many questions, not enough answers as to who they are going to be. And there's going to be a tough test this Saturday against Oregon, but a huge, huge loss. One of the best running backs in college football this season.
80% of the offensive production is now on the shelf. Tyler Huntley and Zach Moss, the two bell cows of your entire offense.
Two leading rushers, too.
Exactly. They're gone. Now you have to turn to Jason Shelley and Armand Shine and TJ Green and other guys as well. But having to shift from where really this offense was starting to hit its peak under Troy Taylor, really you were starting to see this offense all come together. Now things are going to be a little bit in doubt. And coming up against a team against Oregon, a team from the North that you need to beat to stay in contention in the Pac-12 South, as ASU has taken control and been the team that now controls its own destiny, is the worst case scenario for this Utah team. It's terrible heading into a really pivotal game in the Pac-12.
Yeah, this is a really tough situation for Utah, and it kind of leaves you feeling if they can't do it this year, win the South, when will they ever? You can't assume that you're going to see divisions like this year in, year out, where you got 3-4 losses in league. I mean, UCLA still has a path to winning the Pac-12 South. That's how ridiculous this thing is. So Utah still got an opportunity. I still like their chances at home, but still, I just think having those two playmakers gone, the identity, the vision of the offense. I mean, that was the big buzzword after the Washington State loss when Utah went 2-2. What's the identity of Troy Taylor's offense? Well, we saw it in the month of October. I mean, you look at the numbers, advanced analytics, guys like Dave Bartu said Utah was the third best team in college football, in large part because of their offensive success. So now that's gone. Those guys that had that offensive success, it's gone. And you're talking now about a quarterback depth chart, too. When you lose Jack Tuttle, that was another storyline that we're forgetting about. Now you're down to possibly Britton Covey being a quarterback, maybe, if Shelley goes down. So it's very strange to see how Utah's bad luck in November shows its ugly face once again, as you mentioned. And it's really difficult because you got two tough games in league still remaining, and everything could be taken away from the Utes.
Let's look at this matchup going into our big game, not a big game. This is a big game for Utah. This is a big game for Oregon, just in terms of staying in the pack in the North, even though Washington State might be the determinant up there. Utah against Oregon coming up on Saturday at Rice-Eccles Stadium. I think if the 2016 Ducks could come into Rice-Eccles and win, no real option to say that the 2018 Ducks can't do the same.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, with Mitchell and Herbert, that's one of the best tandems in college football, not just in the Pac-12. I think they're going to have a lot of success. And the Utah defense looked human last week against big playmakers, and Oregon's got playmakers as well. Arizona State feasted on Utah's surprisingly secondary. N'Keal Harry could not be stopped against Utah. So I think that Utah is going to struggle in this game. I think that now with Zach Moss being gone, I thought going into the week, JP, even without Huntley, with Zach Moss, they're going to find a way to win. Now with this news, without Moss, I don't see a path to Utah keeping up as far as scoring production goes with the Ducks. And I think that Utah, this is a huge game for them, but I think they're going to ultimately come up short, and the Utah fans are going to leave Rice-Eccles with more heartbreak once again in the month of November in Pac-12 play.
The Tyler Huntley injury for me was a gut punch. the Zach Moss injury is just devastating for the expectations of this year, for things going forward for this team. Looking at the next game in the Pac-12 that we've got to look at, UCLA against ASU. This UCLA still with that outside shot, and they have the opportunity against ASU, which controls its own destiny in winning the South.
Well, and UCLA's odds kind of went up with the Zach Moss injury because they need Utah to lose both games. That now becomes more of a possibility. So UCLA, take care of business, and let's see how the chips fall. Are those chips potato chips, chocolate chips? I don't know.
What chips are those? Poker chips? Potato chips? What? Chocolate chips. Okay, gotcha.
As Kyle Whittingham mentioned, that was one of my favorite Whittingham quotes this week. So UCLA and ASU, this is a great matchup. I'm really excited about this one because Arizona State, we owe Herm Edwards an apology. I know I do. I was laughing at high and low over the hire of Herm Edwards. I thought this is the biggest joke in college football. No, he controls his destiny now. He might be winning the Pac-12 South if they take care of business and win the next 3 games. ASU, UCLA. I got ASU winning this one at home. I think that they'll take care of business and get it done against the Bruins.
Football hasn't changed. As long as we're talking about it. It's a football game, right? It's college football.
I see the way that they dominated the line of scrimmage against the Utes. They're going to do the same against this UCLA team going forward. Next team, looking at the North, Wazoo against Colorado. This is an opportunity for Wazoo to continue to stay atop the Pac-12 North and head into that Apple Cup going forward with an opportunity to take the division crown and try to win a Pac-12 championship.
How discouraging, though, was it for the conference to see LSU get completely destroyed, dismantled, yes, by Alabama, but still see them above Washington State, the number 1 team in a Power 5 conference. A little bit of a tough pill to swallow in the college football playoff rankings, but there's still that glimmer of hope for Washington State being in the number 8 spot. I think Washington State, they had a little bit of a scare last week against Cal, which seems like Cal is just a tough matchup for them. Last year they lost in Berkeley when they were a top 10 team a season ago. So I think Washington State takes care of business in this one against Colorado, a team that lost 4 in a row. I'm stunned to say that this Buffs team has lost 4 in a row. One of those losses was to Oregon State, too. I still think they're capable. I still think they could give this Wazoo team a game, but I just don't see that happening, especially with how well Gardner Minshew's been playing.
Laviska Shenault listed as day-to-day going forward for this Colorado team. If they have him back, that could certainly help their fortunes in this game. Last question before we move on. Coach Leach, Coach of the Year in the Pac-12?
I think so. I think he's got to be the Coach of the Year. I mean, we're talking about a guy that he took over. His quarterback situation was a huge question mark. I mean, and the tragedy that they had with Helinski, and you just didn't think they were going to have this level of production and be this nationally relevant. So yeah, I think Leach is a no-brainer here.
Tremendous improvement by their defense, even on top of that, having to replace Alex Grinch. Coach Leach for me, and for Mitch, Coach of the Year in the Pac-12. Looking forward, Cal at USC. This Cal team has been one that has been a thorn in the side of better teams going forward. Can they get the upset up in the Coliseum?
Yeah, I think they possibly could, but you know what? I think the biggest beneficiary for all this mess that's been happening up in Salt Lake is going to be USC.
Yeah.
I think USC, obviously Utah's got the tiebreaker. They need some help from the Utes, and obviously Arizona State as well. But I think when all of it comes down at the end, and I think USC, they've got a favorable schedule, including this game. They only have 2 conference games left, like Utah. I think USC takes care of business here against Cal. And I think now, JP, I'm feeling as though they're going to be the team that ultimately ends up in the Pac-12 South. I thought they had a nice bounce back last week. Clay Helton makes all those changes to his offensive staff. He takes over the calling duties. So I thought that they showed progress there, and I think they'll be enough to win at home, where they've been, historically really good under Clay Helton, except for that Arizona State game. I think they'll get it done against Cal.
How USC is that? Terrible year, having to flux through the offensive coaching staff, win the Pac-12 South.
Yeah, it's going to happen again. You just know it's going to happen. It's going to break their way. Favorable schedule. It's going to go in their favor.
Looking forward to the other game now in the Pac-12 plus BYU plus USU plus Weber. BYU making the cross-country trip. This is a noon kickoff, Eastern time, 10 a.m. here. That's the only reason why it gives me pause. BYU favored by 2 touchdowns against UMass. I like BYU in this game, but I'm not so sure if I'm going to bite on that 14 plus.
Yeah, that's dicey, JP, and I think for BYU that they're going to put up some points. I do think they're going to score against this bad UMass defense that is giving up 50 plus to the likes of Liberty and all the different teams they've faced this season. I think BYU will score, but I think UMass will score too. BYU's defense has done a nice job the past 2 weeks, but I think they're going to give up some points to, this Andy Isabella. He's been fantastic for UMass, one of the top receivers in college football. So I think he's going to have success. I think BYU wins, though, but I don't think they're going to cover. I think it'll be slightly under that line, but ultimately BYU's just got to get a win. They got to get that revenge and keep their bowl eligibility hopes alive and not have the Utah game be a must-win situation for them.
These next 2 games, you gotta get them if you're not going to have that Utah game coming up as the must-win at the end of the season. This is a pivotal stretch for BYU heading into this game against UMass. Last game on the docket, speaking of points, Utah State against San Jose State. They need to run away with this one if they want to even enter the minds of this college football playoff rankings.
Yeah, Utah State's been dominant offensively. I mean, it's amazing to me how this playoff committee won't show them the love. They got Fresno State ranked. They've got UCF ranked. Why not Utah State? Even Mike Francesa discrediting Utah State. Did you catch that? Mike Francesa, he was saying, don't have time to watch that stuff. Don't have time. And then he referenced Utah playing Arizona State. He doesn't even know that the difference between Utah State and Utah. But Utah State's a legit football team. They're going to cruise through San Jose State. San Jose State feeling a little good. They beat UNLV a few weeks back, but I think Utah State at home. It'll be interesting to see what their crowd is, though. I mean, Aggie fans, where are you at? You only had 16,000 fans the last home game you played. You're a nationally ranked football team, the best team since the days of Merlin Olsen. I mean, show up for your Aggies. I mean, in the AP poll, they're knocking on the door of the top 10. So I think they'll cruise in this one and put up huge numbers once again because that's really, stylistically, that's the only chance they got to get in the playoff is just continue to dominate, crush their opponents, then maybe the committee can get them ranked in because it's going to be important because you got to be that highest ranked team in the group of 5 and be a conference champion to have a shot at that New Year's 6, and they gotta get the style points on their side.
What a divergent of ideas from AP poll to college football playoff rankings. It's been interesting to follow this entire year because AP poll gives love to these smaller teams, but the college football playoff is an exclusive group that's going to protect their own and not allow UCF or anybody else to join the fray.
Yeah, I think it's become kind of a bit of a sham, really, the college football playoff. I just think that this is it's so predictable. I think the weekly polls are almost a bad thing for the sport.
Yeah.
Just come at the end, bring the poll out, you determine it how you will, like the NCAA selection committee does in hoops. They don't reveal it until they do that early reveal now. But, they wait till the very end, and no one questions it when it does come. They get the bracket, and then they fill it out. I think really doing the weekly poll just kind of pokes more holes at this committee, and it's going to bring more conversation to ultimately have 8. And I think that's where it's going to ultimately go. And I think, for the guys like Utah State and UCF, I don't know if they necessarily deserve a shot at the playoff, but I think that they deserve a little more respect as far as their ranking in these polls, because clearly these committee members are just not giving any respect to the group of 5.
Well, if I've learned anything about politics this week, something can be solved by a committee. Anything can be solved by a committee. For Rich Harper, I'm JB Chunga here in the Pac-12 Panic Room, plus BYU, plus USU, plus Weber. We'll be back with more on the other side.